All right, what's going on, everybody? I am the one, the only, the WOOKIE, joined here by my friendly cohort, Dr. Sheep. What's up, Sheep?
Staying busy.
Staying busy. You are staying busy, I'm sure. So, obviously, you guys, we went through it last week. We are, obviously, Mr. Z and Mr. Ewok will be joining us on a very different schedule due to their schedules. So, longtime friend of the show, longtime friend now, Mr. Jupiter obviously was running a show, and he said he's all done doing production, and I completely understand where he's coming from there. So you guys know Jupiter and Drazcor were doing, what was the name? Okay, I'm going to kind of break character here. What was the name of your guys' show? Was it just the KFPL podcast?
Yeah, weekly.
Because I always just remember it just being
KFPL Weekly.
KFPL Weekly. Okay, I forgot the weekly.
Which is a really catchy name.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering.
I always called it Drazcor Teaches.
Anyways, moving along. We decided to combine forces because, Jupiter didn't want to do production anymore, and like I said, I completely understand that. So, we're gonna have Jupiter and Drazcor now on Archon's Corner, which we're actually gonna completely just change the name of as Drazcor and Friends.
Perfect. I love it.
So, you have your own show now, Drazcor. Take it away.
Sweet.
I hope you prepared for this.
This is where we insert the theme song.
All the bills.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a few bills you're gonna have to cover. Don't worry, it's not more than $1,000 a month.
Oof.
Not a big deal.
Okay.
So,
all right. Good to know.
I hope you're prepared for this week's show. We'll see you guys later. No, nothing. You don't got anything this week?
I'm just Draz's sidekick, so I don't have to do anything unless he asks me.
Yeah, that's true. Because Drazcor teaches, I guess. So
what I do want to know,
yeah,
Wookie, is how do we pick what theme music you come in on each week? Because that's a process now, right? That we're going to be involved with.
Well, nobody's ever been involved with it before, besides me, because the only person who ever really gave me shit about it was Dan, and then when Dan came on the show, Dan stopped caring. So because Dan's like, I don't got to listen to the show anymore because I'm on it. I know what happened. So,
that is accurate.
So if you would like to. I've always said, like, if somebody wants to pick the music, feel free. Just tell me what song it is, and I'll put it on there. And,
all right, maybe we'll pick a playlist for the future.
But here's the deal. Nobody said anything. Like, everyone was just like, all right, cool. Sounds good.
I suggested no music.
Dan did suggest no music. I gave him all the reasons that was not the correct answer, and then Dan immediately went, what? Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. So, there was that.
And there's still music.
There's still music because Dan wasn't listening, but you don't have to listen anymore. So there's got to be something, Dan. You can't just have a show and not have some form of intro. We've been over this. I've explained this to you.
I am the Wookiee at the start of every show.
Yes, I do.
I think we should start a 4-piece quartet.
Oh, Lord.
We should just do some barbershop.
Yeah. La 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 la.
Not us, Drazcor. We've got to find someone else.
Oh, we got to pay somebody?
No, it has to be us.
Oh, God, nobody would ever listen. They'd be like, oh, God, skip.
Yeah, I'm not musically inclined.
Me neither. But we do have two gentlemen on the show. Maybe they're musically inclined, and we can convince them this week to do a little barbershop quartet for us. We got Hiram Graff and Ancient Pirate. What's going on, boys?
All right. Hey, am I old?
You're there.
Yeah, you're the Ancient Pirate now.
I'm sorry, Anxious Pirate.
Yeah, I am actually looking at doing a name change anyway, so that's all good.
Well, now you're Ancient Pirate. You have been dubbed,
now I'm
sir.
Ancient Pirate. It
Anxious
actually sounds
Pirate.
really cool.
What's in the running for the name change, Pirate?
So part of the reason I want to change initially was I don't want to have my name to really have any association with anything mental illness. I know it's not really because it's anxious, it's not quite the same thing, but that's just what I decided was the best thing going forward. And so there's a few names in the running. We'll see which ones end up happening, actually. It will still be pirate themed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a good one. I got nothing.
Ember Pirate.
Ember Pirate. That's actually not bad. And Travis Court just thought of that. I'd take it.
Boom.
That's a good name. Boom.
But then
Ember
he would
Pirate.
be allowed to. Then he would be
Pirate.
he would be stunning things when he was tapping booty. That would be cool.
See? It keeps flowing. This is just getting better and better. You have been dubbed, sir. Change that name right now. And we got Hiram Graff. Hi, Hiram Graff. You're still on mute. I don't know if you know you're on mute, but you're on mute. He has unmuted himself, but we still can't hear him. Are you there, Hiram Graff?
Here in spirit.
He's here in spirit. Yeah, I know. He's unmuted, but he has no microphone. So maybe we're just gonna have to, Hiram Graff, as you get it, kind of, I guess, whatever. I don't know what's going on. I didn't mute him, did I? No, he's not muted at all. These two boys are here to convince me that Dark Tidings is a good set.
Yeah.
And I guess since Hiram Graff is muted or whatever, Pirate, you're up first. Why? What? Tell me why Dark Tidings is this this monster of Keyforge that I should be buying. I should be buying more of. Tell me why.
So it's interesting. There's a few. We had written a few things down, Hiram Graff and myself, of like why we think the set is actually a viable set. We don't think it's the best set. That's not. I don't think anything can topple MM at its current state. But I think that it can still compete in many different things. I also would say that personally, I think it competes more in other aspects, not just Archon Best of One. More like adaptive or triad or adaptive. I said that already. Adaptive or triad. I think it works really well in those formats, and I think it also works really well in sealed. There's a few reasons is that, like, you might think it's just because people are unfamiliar, but there is a lot of really unique, weird interactions between a lot of cards that aren't clear when looking through deck lists or through playing the decks just once. It's something that you really have to kind of get a lot of reps in, try things that don't really make sense in the way that Keyforge kind of flows. And for some reason, when I started doing that, trying to play the set without like trying to kind of, I guess, break the rules of Keyforge of, like ABC, always be checking, or bombing the birdie, what do we call burn the witch, in this game. And I started just changing, I guess, how I played Keyforge entirely, and for some reason, it just started clicking. It just started flowing. It just like water, like Dark Tidings.
I guess I'm confused. So what you're basically telling me is when you started playing incorrectly,
yeah,
you started winning?
I don't understand why. I didn't understand at first why that worked, and I think it's just because this set's not intuitive. I don't think this set plays how you think you should play it. Like, I think for the best example of this is when everyone went into buying Dark Tidings, everyone's like, Logos. But honestly, Logos is kind of crap. I hate it. I hate playing it. The problem is too many bad cards in Logos, and because there was so much hype around that house, myself included, even though Jupiter told me, please do not get hyped up because we don't know what the algorithm looks like, and he's right. Like, the algorithm sucks for Logos. There are occasionally these combo one-turn kill decks, and I have played them and played against them, but it's so rare, so rare. It's the other houses is where I started finding my love for DT.
So I guess my question for you is then what am I doing wrong? Right. I think there's a lot of good cards in there. Mm-hmm. The only problem is they're not coming together. Like, Unfathomable is on a whole is just a bad house. They don't do anything well at all.
Interestingly, I actually think Unfathomable is really good. I really, really like Unfathomable. I think Unfathomable is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. In Keyforge, it is almost always bad to play one card turns, right? To do one thing on one turn. Almost always, like 95%, 99% of the time, it is bad. But it weirdly, Unfathomable likes it. Likes doing those really slow 1-2 card turns to get the benefit. Because if you can do things like Storm Surge, which things don't ready at the end of their turn for the opponent, Recusals Chant, exhaust everything, and then the only thing they can do is play cards. And so once they play cards, their board gets bigger, then you do things like, if you're playing Star Alliance, Grand Alliance Council, you just cleared out half the creatures in their entire deck. Maelstrom, make them replay everything they just did, while you then get 2-3 turns of advantage. And yes, it means you're wasting 2 turns, but you're wasting 2 turns to do it, but they're then wasting 4 turns to get back. If that makes sense. It doesn't play how I think Keyforge should be played, and I always feel uncomfortable when I do it, but it can get a lot of value out of just those kind of cards and that kind of those kind of situations.
That's interesting. So I didn't think about it that way, but I do remember early on losing a lot with DT, just having played a ton of MM. And I remember when I first got my first display, played with one of my local buddies he just plays very casually, right? And we just sort of cracked some decks, opened them up and started playing them. And I think I lost every game that we played as we were going. And I was just, I guess in a different headspace maybe. And it took me a little while to start winning with DT. I didn't think about it from in the perspective you said, just in terms of you need to play it quote unquote wrong per se, but it definitely felt like it was a bigger adaptation than perhaps with other sets. Maybe, I don't know.
I think Dark Tide.
Go ahead, Jupiter.
I was gonna say, I think Dark Tidings was interesting in the fact that you get paid off in Dark Tidings for knowing your deck better than any other set because of the lines and the way that Dark Tidings comes together. Nobody had pinned Star Alliance as the best house in the set, and we all said it was gonna be good, but we didn't realize how good Star Alliance was. And with the amount of value that Star Alliance gives you with bouncing from house to house and having out of turn plays, when you combine the right sets of cards and the right sets of layers, your deck comes together as a real powerhouse. And I think
isn't that any set though? If I get the right set of cards and the right layers, my deck just becomes good.
I think that Dark Tidings plays faster when you have the right types of combos, like the Griggs combos with the Triskos and things like that, where they play into the Reap and Sows of the Untamed and who is it? There's somebody that plays a deck that's like Logos, Untamed, Star Alliance, and I should know who the heck this is. I'll remember it later. But there's one of the players that plays this deck really all the time, and it's one of his friends' decks that he plays. But it's just insane because once he hits the starts to go off on his combo with the Triska and the Griggs, he can do his entire deck in one turn, regardless of what card setups he has, because of the way that the Untamed and the bouncing and the Reap and Sows and stuff go off, and it's ridiculous. And then it sets up his Logos for mad archiving and extra card draw. So it's pretty. I think that Dark Tidings just isn't as easy to see how it's good. Do I think it's better than Mass Mutations, Worlds Collide, or Coda? No. Not close, but it's still it has its moments, I guess, is where I would be with it. I think Hiram Graph has a mic now.
I'm gonna say, welcome to the show, Hiram Graph. Welcome.
Hey.
You're in. We can hear you.
Welcome to Battle School. Lesson learned: don't switch to push to talk a minute before a podcast starts.
Yeah, it's typically not a good idea. Push to talk in general is just a bad idea. Just don't do it.
Yeah,
just don't.
So my weird analogy, and I'm still working on this, is that early sets of Keyforge, every turn is like a puzzle that you need to crack to find the best line through. And early sets of Keyforge are kind of like classic Sudoku, but Dark Tidings is like a variant of Sudoku, like something like a chess Sudoku or knight Sudoku, where digits can't be within a knight's move of the same digit. And it's very similar puzzle, but it's also very different. And you have to approach the game just a little bit differently. And I can feel it, but I can't really describe how exactly it is you need to approach things differently. But it plays differently than other sets. That's the best way I can describe it.
All right. So I'm going to give you all the reasons I think Dark Tidings is not a good set. And I would actually rank it as the worst set that Keyforge has come out with. Number one, it's slow. Like, you can a bad SAS deck can overcome its SAS number with a good speed. But you can't, if you don't have the speed, you can't do it. Like, I have not found a ton, and I'm sure they're out there, and I just haven't found them. And we can pin all these, like, the 1% of 1%. But the fact of the matter is that the set's just slow. It is slow. And Pirate, you even noted on it, like, you gotta sometimes take the 1-card turns. Well, it's nice if you can afford to take 2 1-card turns. But when you got other sets out there, as MM and Worlds Collide, you really can't afford those 2 turns. Like, when you're taking on, the powerhouse decks and the very competitive decks, you don't have 2 turns to just kind of put your feet up. Because those decks can win out of nowhere. It's like Randy Orton on a good night, just RKOs you, just out of nowhere. Right? So you don't have those 2 turns to just kind of pick your feet up. The biggest thing that I've kind of come to the conclusion that is the problem with DT, believe it or not, is Evil Twins.
What?
You've added far too much standard deviation when it comes to an algorithm. I love the idea of Evil Twins. I thought it was a very novel and awesome thing. The only problem that comes into play is this house I want the Evil Twins, but these houses I don't. I want the regulars, like Star Alliance. I don't want the Evil Twins, but Shadows I do. Untamed I do. And it seems like there's only 7 houses, so the chances of you getting one set of bad Evil Twins is pretty high. And if you get one set of bad Evil Twins, that slows the whole deck down. And I think that, believe it or not, I think the Evil Twins, and this is the second set where we've kind of, I don't want to say kind of gone off that standard deviation, but like AOA introduced Alpha and Omega, right? Which ended up being terrible ideas because it slowed everything down. If you had too many alphas in your deck, you were screwed. And then if you had too many omegas, you were just screwed. And here we are, the same thing again, where Evil Twins is throwing too much deviation into the mix, where it's creating these like awkward plays.
I don't know, but Evil Twins don't appear that often, right? So
I opened up a box with 5 of them.
Oh, can I have that box?
Yes, you can.
I mean, I think I might only have 4 or 5 in total out of all the decks I've opened. So that's it's like 1 in, what is it? 1 in.
It's about 1 in 12, I think.
1 in 12, yeah. So
the standard was supposed to be 1 in 12. Every full box I've opened of DT has at least had 2.
Heck, well, you're a lucky guy.
I mean, I guess I'm just lucky, but like that, it was just that first box I opened it on Twitter. It had 5. The next box I opened on Twitter had like 2 or 3, and I'm just like, ugh. And even some of my highest ranked decks on decks of Keyforge are Evil Twin decks. The only problem is it has that house where you don't want the Evil Twins, and you're kind of just and you're stuck with it. If it wasn't like the whole deck was Evil Twins, and maybe like you would get like maybe just a house was Evil Twins, but then maybe your Sanctum could be regular. I think that would add too much deviation now.
Yeah, that's just even more insane variance. I'm with you in that Evil Twins in general don't produce better decks than the non-evil twins, but it's not often or impactful enough to be meaningful.
Yeah, if you put a different name on the evil twin, right, and just made it a different creature with a different name, like none of them are exactly the same or like thing. So like it's not really that big of a difference other than the fact that they named it evil twin, right?
Well,
like
but it is
just
a big
like saying
difference
it's a
because
different creature that's similar to another creature.
Well, no,
which
because
happens all the time.
if they
So,
created,
I don't know if like the emphasis on evil twin is really that important.
It
Like,
is because the whole if it's an evil twin deck, the whole like you're now banning certain creatures together. Like if you're getting an evil twin in this house, the whole deck now becomes evil twins. Do you know what I mean?
No good Triska.
Right. So like if it was just another creature, I actually think DT would have been much better if they would have just created another card.
So you're saying you want some of the evil twins and you want some of the regulars and you want to mix them up together. That's why.
Well, I mean, yes.
Then you just really want a 500 card set of just
and I realize I'm asking a lot there, so I'm not putting that out there, but I'm just saying, like, if they just made, evil twin Sir Bear, but his name was like Sir Leonard, I don't know, making that up.
Sir Leonard?
Sir Leonard, why not? Sir Sheep. Whatever. If they had just made another card and put it in there, I think he would have been better off in this set.
Now, see, I think you need that chase element for any set, right? In order for, a certain set of folks to go and buy the set and want to buy more, right? Like,
sure, the
Evil
collectability
Twins does excite me, even if it's not going to be an amazing deck. I'm like, ooh, did I open an Evil Twin? Like that's just fun.
Like at first, I was very, very excited about Evil Twins. I was like, ooh, that sounds real cool. They have really slick art on the back. You're going to have another deck out there that's going to be its twin. Like, that's a cool idea. But then as I started opening them, I'm like, these suck. They're this is just 37 cards of no good.
Yeah, well, they serve their purpose then because they got you hype enough to want to buy it, right?
You're not wrong, but then you're like, after I opened up a few boxes, I'm like, yeah, I'm all done. Like the high wasn't like high enough for me to be like, I need to go buy some more to find them evil twins. Now, if the evil twins were just banging, like, yeah, I'm gonna go find me some more evil twin decks. But the fact of the matter is that, like, they were very kind of like, okay. So then I was like, yeah, who's got that mass mutation? Who's got more mass mutation for me to buy? Dan, how much mass mutation can I buy off of you? Like that's kind of how it was. I think the high didn't last very long for me.
See, I don't rate the evil twins at all. Like the only evil twin there's two evil twin cards that I like, and I don't even think about the other ones, is Evil Witch of the Dawn and Evil Sea Urchin.
Yeah.
And actually, sorry, that's not true. Also, Evil Arms Master and Evil what's his name? Sagasa? Sagasa. Those cards are really good.
I like Chelonia and Amberfin Shark too.
Yeah. But like, I really don't know why you think the set is slow. A lot of the time, I guess through...
No, I'm with them.
Houses are very slow. I've played a lot of the decks that I play do not play slow at all. They all have Star Alliance, and they happen to just play so many cards so quickly. And I think it's interesting that you would think that I don't know. I play through decks that seem to get through the deck faster than the opponent does most games, unless they have some crazy logos. And a lot of the decks that I play tend to be Star Alliance, Shadows, something else. Because Shadows is highly underrated. It is one of the best Shadows we've had. Coda is definitely the best Shadows. And then after that, Shadows has either had really good cards or really bad cards. The Shadows in DT, they only have like 3 or 4 actually not so great cards, but the rest... You can get a whole deck really easily that can do almost the entire house's Amber control.
What are you basing your "it is the best Shadows" out of all the sets?
Coda.
Because
Coda
AOA
Shadows.
is the best Shadows.
Yeah. You know what? The reason I say that is I really hate having a deck full of Lamindra, what's his name, Bad Penny, the guy that has Skirmish and Elusive, and they are so common in multiples.
What about Coda Shadows?
What about Coda Shadows?
Bad in average.
You reckon?
Oh, yeah.
Compared to, like, because World's Collide Shadows isn't that great. World's Collide has...
I'm not disagreeing there. No, Shadows...
Hold on. It is better than Worlds Collide Brobner.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Now that we've
Shadows as a house of 12 cards often doesn't do a lot. Gives you a little bit of Amber control and a couple little pinky damage cards, but they generally don't synergize enough to be a house you care about, except in good decks, and then they're good. And that's a very important part of this discussion is average deck versus Archon selected deck.
Right.
See, you're just about Archon. Competitive isn't just fair. Archon.
Well, no, but Archon selected deck, you're still picking from the better portion of the decks. Not just top tier stuff. Top tier is a whole nother conversation.
That's the question I was getting at. So what you're saying is, as an overall house, like fully like put together house, in an average to like, plus or minus a couple, that you're saying that Shadows and DT is the best, and then I could get behind that in that thought. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think it has the most impact and has the most synergies with other cards within the set overall. And I think if you really, I don't know, I say this because out of every kind of event I've been to in the last few months, and I know this is like DTs people still are unsure about, but my DT decks do pretty well. They usually...
But what are they going up against? Like, when you say pretty well in Keyforge is a relative term, right? Like, when you're coming to Sunday night Scrapfest, right, and it's Dan picking up a AOA deck that he got from Ollie's because he still doesn't know what to do with them other than level his desk out.
What you're calling? Archon's Corner, Weekly's Down, Scrapfest.
The Scrapfest, right? Like, but I'm just saying.
You start out winning, you're not going to end up playing cheap because you're going to be on the winner's side of the Swiss bracket.
Hey, Dan wins a game or two here or there too. So that's I
would take that as some level of insult, but I seem to always be playing you too high.
In the latest KFPL event, I guess you could say, we had that 2 decks, and we had the different houses, and one was banned. What was it called? The format?
Oubliette.
Something like that.
It was called Oubliette.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Is it Ouroboros? Is that another one?
Hold on. Let's ask the guy running it. Hey, Jupiter.
Yo.
What was the last event for KFPL called?
Oubliette.
All right. So now that we got that sorted out,
one and Ouroboros mixed up, which is essentially the same thing. Just it's dumb.
It's similar. Yeah.
Similar. I don't understand. Anyway, I brought a Worlds Collide deck, and it got banned almost every single game. And it was actually the games that I lost were in my DT game came down to the last turn against actual top decks. And then I went 3-2 over the entire event, and the other loss was actually using my Worlds Collide.
Drunk
deck.
Though?
I did have some alcohol. But it doesn't take away exactly. You know what? I had alcohol, and I was still able to get 3 wins with a DT deck.
Okay,
if that's any consultation.
Forget Pirate. Go with Alcohol Pirate.
Alcohol Pirate. I was gonna say 3 wins is great, but that means at some point you were 2-2, correct? Or did you go 0-2 and work your way up?
I think it was like 1-1, 1-1, like 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss, and then a win.
I mean, so basically what you're telling me is that DT will win 50% of the time.
No, I said that Peters was the other deck I had and it lost, so it won 3 out of 4 games. The other one I lost to was a combo crazy fast MM deck that there's no way I could have kept up with either of my decks.
So now I'm confused.
So
Well, so
your DT went what? How
3 and 4.
So your DT decks. So you overall went 3 and 4.
I won
what
3 out of 4
What is
matches.
the record in a single event have any impact on if DT is a good set? It's
No, I was trying to give that's right. I was trying to give some context to what I was saying. That with going mostly every time I use a DT deck, I usually go 4-0 or 3-1 in Chainbound.
But that's Chainbound.
Okay, I mean, so here's the difference in where we're going is Wookiee seems to only be defending Dark Tiding is no good because it is unlikely to generate.
It is unlikely to generate a top tier deck.
A number of Vault Tour contending decks.
Correct.
Which may be true, but that doesn't mean it isn't a good set. Right? And there are two very different trains of thought there. And yes, if you are only looking at a set to farm out, to use it to try to farm out a top tier deck, Dark Tidings is probably not your thing. If you're looking at a set of, is it fun and or interesting or whatever to play, I think Anxious Pirate has a argument there. It's the same argument AOA, although as I keep playing these Ollie's decks and everything has an amber control of 1 or 2, I'm starting to question my own theory on...
theory, yeah. Theory, yeah, theory. I was going to go with sanity there, but we can go a different route. I mean, is it interesting? Sure. I mean, I like playing games. I just don't like my head to hurt after every one.
That's what I like, so that's why I like the set.
I mean, hey, if you're into that sort of pseudo-masochism, have at it.
I'll give you the reason why I think that it doesn't do well in Archon, but why it does. I actually think that DT is very possible to win Adaptive or Triad.
It will never win Adaptive or Triad.
You don't reckon?
Not in a competitive.
I'll give you a reason why.
Setting.
I'll give you a reason why. There's the reason that DT is, I guess you could say, is up and down, is what I would say, is that it does usually each better deck usually does something really well. So it either can just smack the crap out of the amber, generates amber so fast from Untamed and Star Alliance that it be almost too much for a lot of decks to handle. Or it generates a decent board quickly with actually a lot of individual threats. Cards like Diplomat, cards like CXO Tabor, cards like Val Jericho. Val Jericho is so good in this set.
Well, she's good.
Yes, Val Jericho is an old card, but yeah.
I was going to say, Val Jericho is not bad in any set, so...
No, I agree. But it can make threats so quickly by generating board really fast with cards like Together, Unity of Discord, Diplomat. It can generate ambers really fast or generate boards really quickly, but it can't do both. And the thing is that I think that is a important quality in adaptive and triad situations, because you can counter out their weaknesses. And so since the set has weaknesses, it doesn't always work in Archon, because it is almost guaranteed to face something that is strong against what it's weak as. If that makes sense.
I could see it being like a value in an adaptive format, but that's about it. Like, in my opinion, I don't think it's ever going to make a triad or a like you said, an Archon tournament. I'm sure there's that one deck out there somewhere that's just absolutely completely amazing.
There's 100% I don't know what, 25 just bonkers. I mean, they're just off the wall, crazy. Like, they play themselves, right? Like, they're good. Every set generates those kinds of decks, right? It just happens to have the best of every single house in that deck, and it just is. And unfortunately, it's in somebody's shoebox somewhere. Like one card's got a bite taken out of it because like the dog got a hold of it or something. Like that's where those decks reside. But yeah, continue. Go ahead.
I would say that DT Rush is really, it's still underrated as an archetype, and a really good Rush house of Untamed. It's like a couple Trelonias, get a couple Deepwater Gruins in there, and that thing can be burst Amber like nothing. You almost outburst some good Coda Rush decks.
Yeah, it does make a lot of Amber.
Yeah, but a lot of those burst decks in DT that can do that fall victim to like counter decks like that have Infernus or like too much to protect or some form of scaling Amber control, because they usually don't have enough Amber control to back up the burst that they have. They're like literally all in on the I can get there faster than you concept, and if it doesn't have a key cheat, it's almost not going to make it.
DT has very few key cheats.
Very few.
No, that's not true. It has almost more than was it 3 more key cheats than It has 8 total.
Yeah, there are 8 key cheats in There were only 5 key cheats.
No, there's 5 in
Yeah, I got that wrong. 5 key cheats in 8 in DT.
And maybe I had my 2 numbers mixed up there. I knew one of them had a short number of key cheats, so that's It's got Key Frog and lots of way to kill a Key Frog, and that's
that's the best. That's
a very consistent key cheat.
On Key Frog.
I'm trying to remember all the key cheats in DT.
Most of them are rares. That is true, but rares are still.
I know there's like 5 of them that are horrible.
You've got Key Frog at common. You've got Data Forge at uncommon, and then at rare,
Data Forge was not a ton of ways. Like Data Forge, I don't think is viable in this set.
In a good deck, it can be.
Well, I mean, in a
final analysis,
good any deck, like it's
backup plan.
I don't see it being viable.
There's a lot of potential support for Data Forge. So we got Honor's Keysis as another key cheat, Epic Quest, Imperial Forge, the Colosseum, Forging an Alliance, and Dark Discovery.
Yeah, Forging Alliance and the Imperial Forge are a lot better in this set than they were in the other sets that they were in.
And Dark Discovery is stupidly good.
I'm trying to have that card. DOK search this out for me, and it doesn't want to do it. Doesn't want to do it for me.
One of the things that goes on with this set is that SAS doesn't like it, as we all know, right? And if you look at how SAS scores have worked in the past, like, SAS was built on Coda. AOA was a bad version of Coda, a bad set. Although we all argue it's probably still a little under SAS, but ever since Coda, I feel like the designers have been pushing more and more towards board and importance of board presence, which was just not what Coda was about. So if you all remember when Worlds Collide came out, it was significantly undervalued SAS-wise because it was first run scoring was a lot based off of what worked really good in Coda and continued to destroy AOA, which had nothing to do with board presence, right? And then it got fixed, and now I think Worlds Collide is maybe overvalued often with its board present stuff. And Mass Mutation seems like it's okay, score-wise, and then you get into this Dark Tidings where it's back to that more AOA area or whatever, where it's really all about the board presence. Right? Most of the decks care a lot about what's going on the board, and whether that's making it so your board does nothing or that my board gets to do whatever it has to do. It's definitely a board-centric set again, and that makes it harder to evaluate, because if those couple of creatures that need to be down together happen, the decks fire, and if they don't, they can really get kind of clunky.
And I think, though, that with that if those things fire, it really hurts the opponent.
Oh, yeah. It's a super high variance thing, right? If your combo-y stuff comes together, which Dark Tidings is a combo-y feeling set to me, it can beat anything. And if it doesn't, it's like playing a Martian Generosity deck, Martian Generosity Key Abduction deck, where, you know, your Martian Generosity's at the bottom of your deck and the rest of the deck doesn't do enough to make it matter. That's kind of how Dark Tidings feels to me. Like, if my stuff comes together, nothing stops it. And if it doesn't come out together or how I need it to, it doesn't do much anything. And it can happen in the same deck often.
Yeah, I think Dark Tidings is definitely like sequence driven. Like, because like I was saying before, like,
it's heavy RNG.
It's not so much RNG, it's just sequence driven. Like, it doesn't really have to do like that as much luck as it does like how you set up your sequence and how fast you can do it. Because like I said, that one deck that I was telling you about earlier, God, I wish I could remember who was piloting it, but like he's piloted it in some of my tournaments. It's been very far placed in some of my tournaments too. So like it's like
Ollie C.
Huh?
Is it Ollie C?
It's not Ollie C. It's Hierograph is blowing my brain up because his name starts with an H2, but it's not him. But it's another like he plays in a lot of the tournaments. Actually, I can look in the Discord and find it.
Go look in your notes, man.
Yeah, but
I know you take extensive notes.
But no, I don't.
No.
But the idea though is like when his deck goes off on his third turn, he's through his deck and in a position to win. Like he's going to win probably by turn 6 or 7, which is speed wise is very comparable to anything that you're going to get out of like Coda or MM. So, and it's insane. I'm looking to find his name. I got to read through the thing.
But I think the still the struggle is like these are best case scenarios. These aren't.
Yeah, I agree. That's why when I first started talking about it, I said I still rank it as the 4th best set. I don't have it higher than that. But like it's kind of like in the same ballpark as AOA. Like both of them have decks that are good, but like if you're talking about like for like the average deck in playability, I think it's probably a bit higher. But like I don't know. Like I just don't see anything competing with MM at this point. Like
No.
Worlds, and that's a shift in my original because I used to think Worlds Collide was better, but with the amount of MM I've been playing from these boxes and stuff like that, I'm starting to see a lot more of it and going, wow, this is like it's like their lower SAS stuff is broken just because it can't take into account like kind of like what it does with Dark Tidings as far as its like level is like all the weird like combos and things that happen via the pips that are on creatures like in stuff and like how they're played. Like Wild Bounty is like insanely good if it has like a Key Frog that has 2 capture pips and a damage pip on it.
I'm looking at the key cheats. Thank you, Hierograph. I guess there was an easier way than DOK. But like Dataforge and
relying on your guesses.
Yeah, well, like I'm just like, what is going on? Why can't I just search my key cheat? I know this was an option at one point in time, but I haven't searched for it in so long I forgot how to do it. Like Dataforge and Honors Keysis, like I know in the right decks, yes, they can pull off, but like traditionally, like just in your average setup, most decks aren't pulling this off. Epic Quest is still very.
I think what he's saying is he likes low skill decks.
Yes,
I think that's what I'm hearing. He's like these cards that take work. I don't want to play this crap.
I don't want to put that much work in. I feel like Dataforge and Honors Keysis, especially in this set, those are like you don't plan to win by those. Those are like, oh, how do I pull? It was like what happened to Drazkor at the Keyforge Live Finals, right? Like nobody saw the random ass Key Frog getting blown up for the last key, right?
I mean, that was Jay playing really well.
No,
right?
it was an awesome play. Like no, nothing against him, but like he stared at his hand for a very long time, and you could see on his face like he thought you had it. And I think we all thought you had it.
I thought I had it too, based on his face.
Right? We all thought you had it. You're like, oh, he's got nothing, and then like he shuffles around his cards, and he's like, all right. Last ditch effort, 4th quarter. I gotta just launch this 80 yards to score a touchdown. Like, and that's my only chance. And that's how I feel about a lot of the key cheats in this set. It's a last ditch effort. It might happen. It might not. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think Dataforge is way easier to get off in DT. There's a lot more card.
No.
Yeah, it is. But it's awkward a little bit though, because there is, I think, I didn't actually look at this.
Forgive and
It
forget
feels-
theory or contra. Like,
Yeah.
There's plenty of.
There's tons of ways to archive, but there's a lot less pips and a lot less ways to like instantly generate Ember this time around in Logos. So like you're not as much, unless you already have the established board, you're not as much getting Ember when you call Logos as in other sets. And to trigger that data forge, you often need final analysis to blow up your board. So then you're not going to get value after that. So it's like, it's the timing, like Jupiter was talking about. It's like tricky, and you have to play it right. If you do it right, it can be strong, but like if it doesn't come together, it really doesn't come together.
But I feel like every time we explain that, we're explaining most decks. Like, well, if you play it right, it works real well. It's like, well, really? Like, isn't that the same thing for anything?
No, I think that's why MM does well as it plays itself, honestly.
And in Dark Tidings, you can easily see that they took away like the dual purpose type things for the most part. Like back in, say, like AOA, right? We got introduced to Eureka, and we were like, holy crap, you get 3 Amber and you get to archive 2 cards at the same time. Sweet. In this set, you don't see that. You either get Amber or you get an archive. You don't get both. Like, and that's kind of where you feel, I think, the speed fell off. But as far as the key cheats, like data forge and stuff, I think I've seen plenty of like, well, I wouldn't say plenty, but I've seen a handful.
In Dark Tidings.
Oh, is it? Okay, I didn't forgot. Like, that's fine. I haven't seen it hardly at all. Like, it's interesting then, because like I see more theory and conjecture, forgive and forget, like combos with data forge, and then like they try to think twice with the data forge. So they tried it for the wombo combo type thing, but again, I think it's really hard to set up, and it takes a lot of like brain power that most of us don't want to commit. Like, so I won't say all of us. There's those people.
I don't say it's like I don't want to commit it. Like,
I don't.
I hate to tell you this. I ain't got that kind of time to discover the deep, dark secrets of every single deck I own. You know, I don't know about you. Well, I know you don't know many anymore, but I still have about 1,000 decks sitting in my Honda Civic outside because I've run out of place to put them in my house. So I boxed them up and put them in my trunk. Like, that's where they reside. And I don't have time to like search through every single deck for that one, like that high spot. You know what I mean? I don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's
so to make it easy
point
for you, just pick anything Star Alliance, Shadows, X, and it'll probably be a better deck than the average DT deck.
I agree with that.
Probably, but like my thing is, and I think we're going to do an episode on this, Jupiter. I don't know if you've done one on your show already. If so, well, it'll happen again. Because like you and I had a very long talk about how we search for decks and what we do. And I think that's a very like good thing to like go over.
Yeah, I touch on it a bit here and there, but like I think we have talked a bit about that, me and Draz. But so by the way, the player's name that has that deck is Dasyog. That's who it is. Dasyog. He has an insane Dark Tidings combo deck of with the Untamed, the Star Alliance, and the Logos. It's absolutely silly.
I was going to say, because even Z was like, "Oh, here's this way. I just went on turn, I OTK," and it's like, "Oh, great! Like you're asking a lot of your deck to give you all of that, like, but it's going to happen for someone. Someone's going to find that."
Yeah,
right?
like if you have like Safe or Sorry with Logos, like it's pretty good. If you have like enough Shadows creatures that kind of just buy you some time, and then you put all those guys into your archive at once with the Safe or Sorry, like put all the creatures into your archives at once, and then you can hit the Think Twice Data Forge combo. That's the most, I think, reliable version of that combo I've seen. But like, it's still such a fairy tale, like, because if somebody sees that coming, or like you're playing a high end, like there's a lot of Dysania now at the high end, like looking for like archives, because there's so many archiving tools with like gravitons and all these other things that people are playing, that it's still, I mean, it's always risk reward, right? Like you have to think about what you're taking into a tournament. And I think when you talk about going 8 rounds and winning like 6 of the 8 rounds, I don't think Dark Tidings is built with enough depth to do that. Again, at the tournament level, I don't think it's built with enough depth to do that on a regular basis.
So, yeah, I would tell you there's probably a handful of decks out there, right? Like probably like 25 that they do have that level.
I mean, every once in a while we see an AOA in the top 8, like it happens, but like it's not the norm.
Right.
From what
It's the outliers, right? It's the 1% of the 1%. Right. They're the monsters. And just, I think on average, if I were to take a 75 DT and a 75 of any other set wins 90% of the time.
No,
I don't believe that at all.
Well,
I don't think if
I'm with these guys.
With my 75 and between 70 and 75 is like the sweet spot for DT at the moment. If
boy do I got some 75s to sell you then.
Yeah, I'll have a look through it. Trust.
But the problem is that 75 is now just a whatever deck.
That's true.
I mean, like 75 is like when we a year and a half, 2 years ago, pre-MM.
Yeah, 75 was
that cut number. Like it's going to be 75 or better, probably before it's considered really good.
Now it's got to be 80.
80, I agree.
85.
I don't think you should be playing any. I don't think the DT in that 80 range is right because they rate logos so highly, and I do not like playing logos from DT. It is not. It is too. What's the word? Too dependent on draws. It's weird for a set on efficiency. It's too dependent on draws.
But efficiency is what wins games in Keyforge. That's the thing you're missing.
Efficiency is what won games in previous sets, but Dark Tidings is a little bit different, and it actually benefits more from holding cards than previous sets did.
Winning games is getting value cards, and one of the ways to do that is to use efficiency to try to always have the cards you want when you want, but that is not the only way to make sure you're getting value out of cards.
Nope. If you have a high ARC, you can get away with a lower efficiency because you're playing quality cards every turn.
Right.
There is something to quality over quantity, but
even low speed with just a little bit of archiving, just so you can the couple of cards you need to be able to save. You don't actually need like the silly F that exists out there in the world, where you just, turn 12 cards every turn because you're Igoring half your deck away.
Don't talk about my decks like that, Dan.
That isn't actually... There's definitely a thing where efficiency just moves you through... Often what F really does is it just makes it so you don't have to play your bad cards. Because that's what you do, is you use it to just get past your bad cards to get to your good cards. And that's where the arc thing comes in. If you don't have many bad cards, then... The efficiency becomes a little more flexible.
Right.
Jay Philippa plays second in season 2, right behind Lorenzo, with a deck that had -2 efficiency.
Yeah, but what was the arc? What was the SAS?
Yeah, he had a decent. The SAS was actually not even over 80. I don't think. I think it was like 78.
Well, in season 2, what is it now?
No, it's still in the same ballpark. Like
still in the same ballpark. It didn't shoot up all of a sudden. It's
just he had a incredible familiarity with it. It was one of his favorite decks, and it was a deck that he just piloted really, really solid. And it played solid cards. Like it probably had a decent arc. I don't remember what it was, but he just played it really well. And there's something that goes to say with playing high quality cards. Playing your deck religiously helps a ton, because then you know how to pilot it better than anybody else, and you're used to the situations that you're seeing, and you make less mistakes because it's kind of like when you read a choose your own adventure book multiple times. The more times you read it, the easier it is to get a favorable outcome, because you kind of know what things to avoid and where to go when you're piloting your deck, right? So it's I don't think there's that one all stat. You can't just say efficiency is it, because it's not. It's if you have a high efficiency and a high arc, you probably have a stellar deck, because it's giving you great cards at a high volume of speed. That's the dream, right? But those don't happen very often. So
I was unaware you cannot search by arc anymore on DOK.
Really?
Yes, you can.
Can you?
You should be able to. But there's a whole other factor in DT that I think makes it challenging, right? So that diving into your trunk, your Civic full of decks, right? Your trunk full of decks, WOOKIE, is tricky because the whole tide manipulation thing, right? So if you just straight up look at the SAS score or even the ARC score, I don't think they necessarily take into account very well how much tide manipulation you have versus how many cards you have using the tide and how important that is for your deck, right? There's definitely some decks out there that if you just read the cards and you assume you have the tide every turn, you're like, this is going to be great. But then you realize you have almost no way to manipulate the tide, and you get into the game and you're like, oh shoot, do I pay 3 chains to do this thing? No, I guess I don't. Right? And then suddenly you're not getting all these cool, powerful things. But then other decks can. Other decks can take the tide when they need it. And that's a whole dimension that's not well incorporated in the ratings today. And I think it's hard to just eyeball a deck and see without a lot of practice.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't, and again, I've played some DT, but I haven't found anything. Most of my DT has been testing double chronophage decks.
Those are fun.
So that's been a lot of my time is just testing double chronophage decks, because that's I've told everybody this point in my Keyforge playing career, I'm just here to make your life hell. Like if I go 1-7, I'm totally cool with that. As long as like my game with you was a complete,
as long as you didn't have any fun,
as long as it was a complete and utter nightmare, we're good to go, right? Like perfect. I'm actively searching out Heart of the Forest decks, like as we speak. No joke. Like I'm still looking for them, so I will. I'll get me some. But we're coming up. We are coming up on our hour. I didn't mean to show, cut anybody short. We're going to go through final thoughts here real quick. We're just going to go in order. Drazcor, what do you got for final thoughts today?
I mean, I like DT quite a bit. I think it's fun. I don't think it's the strongest set. I'm on the same page with a lot of folks in terms of, I think it's the 4th ranked. But I definitely think it's a set that rewards repeated play and practice. And I like what Pirate you were saying about adaptive, right? I think it's a good set for adaptive, because people who haven't put in that practice may struggle and not know how to hit a bid or how to play that deck. So that's where I'd put it.
All right, Mr. Dan. I think we're going out of order, but Mr. Dan, what you got?
Dark Tidings in open sealed format is very, very competitive. It actually might be stronger than many of the other sets. If you come and see our Tuesday night things, the people open Dark Tidings often do very good. It's very strong. But you're right. It doesn't make that 90 SAS monster deck. But in its weight class, it's very good.
Jupes, what you got, my guy?
I guess my takeaway is that people need to start to learn how to look at decks for themselves and use SAS as a tool and not as a be-all, end-all. Because I think there's a lot of good decks right now in Dark Tidings that are riding like 67 to 77, like in that range. Like there's a lot of really nice decks in there, and you have a chance to basically maybe snag some gems, do a Drazcor.
All right. We're just going to go with Pirate. What you got? Final thoughts, my guy.
I think that DT has about the equivalent number of top decks that AOA has, but I believe its average is a lot higher than AOA.
Hiram Graph, rounding us out.
Yeah, I'd say I would place the average DT deck over the average Worlds Collide deck. But the average DT deck is going to take a lot more brain cells to play.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. Wow, that hour flew by fast once we got rolling. I didn't even realize it was an hour until Dan told me he wanted to go to bed. So we'll see you guys all next week. Blast off. Worldwide. It's going down. Put it out for the world to see. LP and X-Men to the 10th degree. It's going down. Nobody in the world is safe when we melt down.